Hi everyone, Luke Filmboss here, and today, rather than reviewing a big Hollywood movie like I usually do, I'm going to be reviewing an independently made YouTube movie made by a YouTuber named Asher Pike. So, this is my review of The King's World Duel of Shades. One of the big things that makes this movie unique is its thunder animatics, and if you watch the movie, you'll find out real quick what that is. It worked in some of the shots, it did add something to some of the scenes, and it does look good visually, but when you're focusing on the story, it's more distracting than anything. There's just too much going on with the colors and everything on the sides that you're not really able to quite focus enough on what's actually going on in the story, and that kind of lessened the movie a little bit for me. In the sequels, I would just take away the thunder animatics, not because it's not visually cool, but because it takes away the focus from what's actually going on in the movie and the story itself. There are some scenes that maybe could be improved with the thunder animatic effect, but I wouldn't use it for the majority of the film. The designs of the animation was actually pretty good. I'm not sure if it was Asher Pike who did the drawing for the animation, but some of the locations and the character designs were pretty solid. What really didn't work is the fact that mostly it's just still frames. Obviously, it's a low-budget film, so they didn't have as much time or as much resources to make every single frame moving, and so there's a lot of still frames that, on their own, the artwork is great. It's actually very beautiful and well-designed, but it just needs that movement. Even if it's not like a constant fast-paced movement, we need to see a little bit more movement of our characters to help know when our characters are talking and just explain visually what's going on. The story is okay, and it does a lot of things right as far as plot and motivations, but the characters, at least the majority of them, aren't very well developed. I had trouble even remembering most of the characters' names. For example, there's the scene near the end where this one character gets killed by the villain. I guess his name was Nicky, and one of our main characters just shouts out, "Nicky!" And it's like supposed to be, I guess, this emotional moment, but I'm just there being like, wait, who's Nicky? As far as characters go, I thought the villain was actually really interesting and well developed. There could have been more done with him, but I thought he was a very solid character. I can't remember if Soul is the name of the human that's being possessed by the spirit, or if Soul is the name of the spirit itself. But overall, he was a really good character. There's about an hour a day where the human character is able to be in control of himself and not be controlled by the evil spirit. And we find out that he's trying to get to the altar so that he can separate himself from the spirit and be free and live his own life again. And that's some pretty compelling, interesting motivations. We understand why he's doing what he's doing and where his motivations are coming from. And his brother is the one leading the charge of the good guys, who are all trying to get to this altar to stop Soul from getting to the altar. And while Soul's motivations might be misplaced because he doesn't quite know if he'll actually be helping the Dark Lord by getting to the altar and doing what he needs to do. But overall, you still understand why he's doing it, because even a chance of getting his life back, he's willing to take it. And that's some pretty good stuff. I actually like the villain in this movie and think that his character should be developed more throughout the rest of the series. There were some messages that this movie was trying to convey and get across, but quite frankly, it doesn't do that. It doesn't convey any of the messages to the audience, except for one. There was a message in this movie about suicide and the value of life, and I thought it was done pretty well, and it actually does serve some of the best character development in this movie. And so I'll give it credit that there is some pretty good stuff in here, even if the main focus isn't always on those good parts. One big problem with this movie is that it doesn't follow the rule of show, don't tell. This whole movie is mostly just one giant exposition dump, filling us in on information that we need to know throughout a lot of conversations, some of which aren't even necessary. There is some good things in here where it actually does its best to show us what's going on, and some of the conversations are needed to continue the story forward, but there's just overall way too much exposition that's just trying to explain so many things, and some of it's not even necessary information. That does drag this movie down a little bit. This movie does a pretty good job of creating its own fantasy story and fantasy world, and it does lean a little bit too close to Lord of the Rings at times. There's like 2 lines in this movie that are like pulled straight out, word for word almost, from Lord of the Rings. But overall, I thought that this was a pretty interesting world, and I am kind of looking forward to seeing where it goes from here with the next installments. I respect what Asher Pike was trying to do with this movie, and there is a lot of stuff in this movie that does work. This is a passion project. You can tell that it means a lot to the people who created it, and due to the fact that it's a low-budget YouTube film, it's not a big-budget Hollywood film, it shouldn't be compared on the same standard, but there are some things in this movie that are a little bit inexcusable. The dialogue could have been a little bit better. The story could have been crafted into a way that we understood what was going on a little bit better in some of the scenes. But overall, there's also a lot of good, there is strong use of plot in this movie, and so even though we might not understand what's going on in the scene we're currently in, we always know what the goal is. We're trying to get to that altar, and so that actually does do some strong work for the story, so that even if we're in a scene that either isn't necessary or doesn't quite make sense, we always know what the end goal is, and that's actually some pretty good filmmaking. Just in the next installments, I think they should do a little bit better job of explaining why our characters are doing what they're doing at a particular moment in time, and why it's important to getting to our end goal. If the future installments in this franchise improve upon each other with each installment, I think that by the time we get to the final film, it could be a pretty good action-adventure fantasy film. Not just by an independent filmmaker standpoint, but even by just a general filmmaking standpoint in general, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. I think Asher Pike needs to evaluate what he thinks was wrong with the movie, what he thinks he can improve, and take into consideration criticism from others, so that each installment can get better and he can actually make a really good film that might get him recognized by some bigger people, and that could actually kickstart a bigger career for him, and even eventually maybe coming back to films like this and fixing what was wrong about them and making them into what they potentially have the potential to be. If you spend a lot of time on YouTube or a lot of time watching movies, you should definitely check this movie out at Asher Pike's channel at Asher Pike's Golden Moral Cinema. I'm going to leave a link to his channel and to his movie down in the description, and definitely subscribe to his channel. He has some pretty cool videos. In the end, this isn't the kind of movie you would choose to have a movie night with, but it does serve as a decent first film for an up-and-coming filmmaker. I give The King's World Duel of Shades a 50% in quality, a 50% in enjoyment, for an overall score of 50%. Thanks everyone for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help you be on the lookout for more videos from Luke Filmboss.